And let's see.
I don't see it on Facebook yet.
You don't? I think it's not. It's not
Oh yeah,
gonna.
I see it. Yeah, I see it right now.
Yeah. Okay.
On her page. Okay.
It's right there. Hello, everybody. This is Kasha Brown, and you're in the mix with Apostle Didi and Pastor Alton Dixon. Welcome, y'all. How y'all doing today?
Hi, how are you?
I'm
We're doing
amazing.
good.
I'm
We're doing good.
amazing. I'm amazing. Okay, today we're going to kind of get right in it. I had the pleasure of knowing these two amazing pastors, and they're definitely anointed by God. And I wanted to bring them on to shed some light right now in this time of need that we're going through in today's society. Of course, everyone's aware of the fact that we're actually dealing with a pandemic, the COVID-19 coronavirus. And so today's topic of discussion is going to be ministry in the midst of mayhem. So first, I want to give an introduction to Apostle Dorothy. She is the pastor of New Life Church in Linden, New Jersey. She's a retired educator of over 20 years. She's actually a author, a wonderful author. She's actually a let's see. She is an entrepreneur of God in Clothes. I want to mess that up. So God in Clothes is a store that you have or a boutique that you have.
It's an online store, yes.
Online store, and she's also the I guess I would say the organizer of several different groups, and one is considered to be called Hidden No More. I'm just jumbling my words up. So let me just let Apostle just introduce herself, because right now I think I'm kind of like messing it up a little bit. So let me just go ahead and let you just kind of reiterate what I just stated.
Well, she said everything. Thank you so much, Kasha. I love you dearly. Again, my name is Dorothy Denise. Everyone calls me Didi. My pastor is here to Life Now Church for I think 11, 12 years now. Author. I have several groups, Hit No More, we're in this together on Facebook, clothing line, God Equals, and I also have an LLC, Dorothy Denise LLC, and also have Queen of Christ LLC. I am a former, I still do it, I'm a Christian comedian, and I love God. I absolutely love God. I'm finishing up my master's, and actually I'm in limbo because of this pandemic, because all of our classes are done. However, my internship is again in limbo, so I'm waiting to hear back from the university concerning that.
Okay. Welcome, Apostle Dorothy.
Thank you.
Pastor Dixon. We have Pastor Alton Dixon. I've known Pastor Dixon for some time now, so I'm gonna try to make sure I keep this short on my end so that you can introduce yourself as well. We have Pastor Alton Dixon. We met several years ago at Disciple Central Community Church, correct? I think that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
We actually became friends at that particular point after serving in ministry. He now is a senior pastor of Faith Church, the Faith Church in Lancaster, Texas. Can you please introduce yourself for us today?
Well, my name is Alton Dixon. From New Orleans, a transplant plant from New Orleans. Came here because of Hurricane Katrina, and so we've been here 15 years now, and I've been the pastor of the Faith Church for 5 years. As a matter of fact, in 2 weeks to be our official anniversary. 5 years as pastor, and so just grateful to be here. Thank you for having us on.
Welcome. Thank y'all for joining me. And I want to go ahead and kind of just delve into it. Today is going to be kind of like a laxed chat on today, just about basically how to encourage people in these times right now, because right now we're experiencing some times to where we haven't never seen before. I know that we grew up kind of hearing about some of the Tuskegee Project. We heard about the Spanish flu. We heard about how, of course, slavery, but that ain't the same thing. But we went through some trying times to where people just didn't have any hope. And right now, people are so frightened because they just don't know what to do. There's no cure, there's no vaccine. And right now, we don't even know how it's completely transmitted or transferred to the next person. So I want to just talk to y'all on today, just in reference to ministry and mayhem. Okay, so let me ask you this question, and either one of y'all can choose to answer first, and then the other person can answer. So, how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected you or rocked the church foundation? How do you feel it's affected you, or how do you feel that it's rocked the church foundation at the moment?
You want me to go first, sir?
Yeah, yes, you can.
Okay. Well, how has it affected me? Honestly, I haven't had any family members, thank God, or any close friends that have experienced it. However, I do know of a lot of people who have, from another person, maybe a member of my church had a family member that was lost or has perished to this. Myself, specifically, it hasn't affected me to the extent that it may have affected many others. We did receive some warnings ahead of time about something coming, changes that I had already made concerning my mom. I'm her caretaker, and she at the time was in an assisted living facility. And actually, today I received the numbers from New Jersey about assisted living facilities in our area. And the facility my mother was at has already had 25 25 people have it and 8 people have already died.
Oh,
However,
wow.
back in October, God told me to take her out and to bring her home. So again, my schedule was already the way it is. I was already in the home more because of my mother and those things. So I didn't have a huge change or transition into the stay at home piece. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and as well as our church foundation. I don't believe the foundation of our church necessarily has been rocked because we, again, God has us transitioning and doing so many different things. We're considered an out of the box ministry, very prophetic, but we hear God. So as God speaks, we move. And so
Okay.
it's not as difficult, I want to say, for many of us because we're used to transition. However, I did implement a lot of different things now to happen to make sure that we're close and that we have an opportunity to constantly have communication. And I think that's what helps our church. Like we have midnight manna, so we get together at midnight for those who are usually up. We have pop-up prayer during the day. We have some fun things that happen to keep us going. We've already had a group meet. So we have a group meet where we can come in and we constantly have prayer. We constantly have encouragement. We constantly have daily affirmations. We constantly have people saying, I need prayer. I need somebody to talk to, or behind the scenes, reaching out to one another, giving testimony, again, asking for prayer, having encouraging words, videos. We have
Wow.
very interactive. So that had already been established years before. We were already doing some Bible studies interactively. We already knew about Zoom and been using it since about 2018. So
Okay.
it wasn't not for church, but it wasn't a huge shift because some Bible studies, if it snows or whatever, okay, jump on Zoom. And the
Right, right.
groups that I have, one of my Bible studies was already on Zoom. And then some of our meetings were on Zoom. So it wasn't too hard of a shift. I mean, we did some tutorials to get everybody
Mm-hmm.
set up and how to be interactive with it, but it wasn't a huge shaking, at least from my perspective, for our
Okay.
church.
Okay, because y'all already had some things in place anyway.
We had a lot of things in place already.
Okay, Pastor Dixon.
For us, it affected us in a huge way. We, of course, churches were shut down, and so we had to go online. And we've been online, of course, ever since for the past month or maybe in a week now. Know multiple people that have been sick, and some have passed there in New Orleans. We're blessed that none of our members has died or that we know of have been affected by it. And so even so far as being sick. And so we're just grateful to God for that. But this pandemic is something, like you said, Kasha, we have never seen before. And so
Right.
I just think, for the body of Christ, I think it's just really, really time now for us to make sure that we have our relationship with God, an intimate relationship with God, so we can be in tune with what He's saying, number one. And then number two, making sure we're still doing what we're called to do as the people of God.
Okay. Okay. And I do want to say this too, because I know, Pastor Didi, that your church is a smaller church. So that's the one thing I do love about your church. It's so intimate. And I like the fact that you're able to reach out and touch your members. You're able to, I mean, not necessarily physically right now, but you know what I mean, in reference to contact and communication. And y'all are like a family, like y'all really look out for one another. But then you have those churches that are like considered mega churches that their foundations have really been rocked for several different reasons, whether it's financially, because there's a big financial, what I call it,
Possibility.
right now, or just how can I say this? There's just a lot going on. I know some people who are pastors of mega churches, and they're really like going through it right now because if they have over thousands of members, as opposed to a smaller church, they're like really taking a hit right now because they still have to keep this church running. I know some churches aren't necessarily nonprofits,
Yeah.
too, right? So that they may have a little help in that aspect, but for the most part, I feel like a lot of churches have been really rocked if they're doing what they're supposed to do in reference to
Right.
making sure they're putting their congregation first.
I think I agree. Every church is going to look different, but I
Mm-hmm.
do know of some larger churches who are more family oriented. I would say,
Mm-hmm.
in my position, I just think you should always be touchable because that's
Yeah.
the model that Christ had. So even with many, he had his few that was close to him, but he always was for the people. So I do think that a huge foundation shifting is happening with ministries, but I also think that the focus can go back to where it should have been, which is God. It has to be. It can't be. I think if it's big, that's fine. It's great. However,
Mm-hmm.
our focus has to always be the people. And so with the technology that we're able to have and with the interactiveness that technology enables us to have, we should all still be able to have that same, if not even bigger for a mega church, that same opportunity to reach out, the same cell group that they may have, to have those platforms and to reach out, to have the scripture talks about how you have 1/50, 1/500 leaders here and there, and they should still be able to bring those people together. And that's what I think is a huge scattering.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, what do I do? Where do I go? Whereas we now have this is our virtual church now, because the Lord told us we're not going to change this when we go back. We've had members joining through our virtual church because
Which is a blessing.
a blessing. They're out of state or they're in different places. So
Right.
every week we have people joining because they're not able to get to where we are. But even when we go back, or whatever our so-called new normal is, this is going to remain in place. So we can still have the opportunity to have that. And I
For
just,
other people to come in.
yeah, if you're
So,
not, in our state or anything like that.
so let me ask you this, Pastor Dixon, let me lead it towards you. So have you all heard of, because you're from Louisiana, Pastor Snell, Tony Snell?
Yeah. Heard of them.
He's, so he's the
Mm.
pastor that was in Louisiana. I think he pastors Life Tabernacle Church.
Yeah.
And he was the one who chose to have church service. Like, the government is not going to tell me how and when to worship. I'm going to have church service. And he had like over 1,000 members that came to the church. So as I
Right.
was doing, some research about him, not only did he have over 1,000 members at church, he had Sunday service. He had, for Easter rather, he also
Mm.
violated the LA stay-at-home law because of that. So
Right.
how do you feel like? What's your viewpoint on that, basically?
My viewpoint is, let me first put this disclaimer out. I think when it comes to churches, I feel like when it comes to pastors, I would never tell another pastor how to do and run their church. At the end of the day, he's responsible for his church. But let me say
Right.
this, and I want to be very clear. As for the faith church, I'm going to always put humanity over economy. I'm never going to put somebody's life in danger for money, for fame, for whatever. I feel
Mhm.
like at this particular time, it's safe to have people in their respective places as long as they can get the word. They're watching virtually. You mentioned mega churches, but right now, the truth is there are no mega churches. We're all on the same plane. Everybody's tuning into everybody. And so until we get back into a building, we all mega. So I think right now it's just time for us to just get the word out the way we can and keep people safe. Also, when it comes to the coronavirus, Miles Monroe said this: when you don't understand the purpose of a thing, you'll abuse it. And sometimes we don't understand the purpose of suffering, right? And why we have to go through. And sometimes we have a pity party on why we have to go through, why we got to sit in the house, why things are happening. And we don't understand there's a purpose behind everything God does and allows, because he might not have caused the coronavirus, but he allowed it for a reason. I'm starting a new series on next month in June. We're in the series right now called I Can't Stand This House. But next in June, next month, I'm starting a series called Can You Hear Me Now? Because I believe God on the virus so he can get our attention. And God wants to know, can you hear me now? Because let me tell you something. If you can't hear God now, I don't know what's going to get your attention.
So, you know what? I like that. And with that being said, that leads me into my next point of right now, they're pointing the finger at the African American community. There's part now, I'm sure it's happening amongst all the races, but of course, they're pointing finger mostly at, or they're targeting the African American community, saying, like, we're being very defiant. We want to have parties. We want to go out and hang out. You know, we're feeling like it can't happen to us. We're feeling like you can't make me stay in the house. So what would be a word of encouragement, or what would be your thought process on how to motivate and help guide those people who are like, I don't really care about this thing. It don't apply to me. We're going to kick it. We're going to party.
Well, I think, I'm in New Jersey, and I know in different areas, it's different perspectives, because over here, there's a community in New Jersey called Lakewood, and they are not African American, they are Jewish. And in
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn, there's a lot of Jewish community there, and they are some of the most defiant groups of people, because they're still
Wow.
they have not gone in yet. They're breaking into the schools. Their teenagers are breaking into
Wow.
the schools to say they're studying. They are having weddings. There are so many weddings that they're continuing to have that have to be broken up. Today, there was a huge gathering of another wedding. So we're hearing a lot about the Jewish communities on
Oh,
our
wow.
who are being defiant, who are still having their way and saying they're going to do what they want to do. They have the right. So we don't necessarily, and we still have some African Americans over here in certain
Mm-hmm.
areas that are out. And they are having police, drive around and issue summons and things of that nature. I did see in Atlanta how there's a lot of group of people out partying and just gathering.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest that many of the leaders from those places, African American leaders, which I have seen happen, they're making commercials. They're
Yeah.
they're really going out and trying to get them to understand that many are looking at this as the Tuskegee experiment. You get your check, you received your check, and now the
Mm-hmm.
stores are open. They want you to spend your money,
Don't
and you're
spend it.
out there. And many instances have shown outside of the African American community that when they open back up, the levels went back up. And that has already been shown, that has already been proven. And again, maybe we see a little bit more information in New York and New Jersey because we have it the hardest and the most. So our news is a little different. However, the encouraging piece would be to continue to put out the stay at homes. I joined a group today that said Unite, and you have your little picture up there, and it's targeted the African American community to stay at home. There's a profound video that I posted on my page yesterday, and it basically looks like it could be a promo for Get Out, like something very
Oh,
profound.
yeah. I saw
However,
that.
it's showing, yeah, you're going out here, and
Scary.
it's very eerie. But I
Yeah.
need to continue to have those type of conversations. But it's difficult when you're dealing with the African American community, and not that you can't be led by a Caucasian. I'm not saying that at all. But if you don't hear our voices standing up and our people standing up and begging and pleading for the people to come in, it's not going to happen. However, we still have to remember people is still people. And this is really, like, we see this in the Bible. You're
Mm-hmm.
told one thing, you're told to stay in the house, you're told to get on the boat, you're told to do certain things, and there will be a group of people that will not listen. And so our job as the church is to pray for that group of people. Like, put out your PSAs and everything else, but I don't think people really understand the power of prayer. And I think the church has moved so far from the Bible and into the mainstream that even the church doesn't believe in the power of prayer. And that I really believe that the church will say, okay, we're going to pray, but But the word says in 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people will pray, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, I will forgive their sin and heal the land. Many times when God allows stuff like this, there's a lot of sin. And this is a replica. If we knew our word, we would just see this is another cycle repeating itself, because that's exactly what happens in the word. But most of us don't focus on the word. We focus on everything else. And so the church has become so much like the world, it's hard to tell a difference.
See, and what you just said, and I wanted you to expound on that, Pastor Dixon, is the fact that a lot of millennials, not just millennials, but a lot of millennials, they just like stubborn. They just like, I ain't doing it. I'm a rebel. This is, you can't tell me what to do. Being from Dallas, I know I've communicated with a few people and they're telling me where they're going, or I've seen some people that I know on live at a house party in Dallas. And I'm like, okay, y'all are at these house parties. Like, we've been in lockdown probably just as long as y'all have in New Jersey. We've been in lockdown for a minute. So to hear that they're about to kind of lift the ban of like stay at home in Dallas, when I think y'all been on lockdown for like 2 days.
Yeah, but the thing is, our numbers are different.
But right. But I'm about to talk about that too. So what's your feedback on the fact of what you see in Dallas, Pastor Dixon, and the defiance or people not wanting to stay at home?
I just think you're going to always have a group of people that's going to do what they want to do. I think at the end of the day, what our focus has to be on is making sure that our families and as people that are leaders are making sure that we are getting the word out to our people to stay home, to be safe, to do what you need to do. I don't think we can focus on everybody that's running out and partying and doing whatever. I think sometimes as well, it can become a distraction to what is trying to take place. And what I mean by that is, if we focus more on how many people are out in the street, we focus less on that some of these gangster governors are opening up businesses at a time when stuff should be closed. Let's put our focus on why the politicians that we put in place are allowing or putting us in harm's way and telling us to go to the movies, to go to the restaurants, to go to these places when they know that this thing has not hit its peak yet. And they know that it's still not safe to go out right now. And so I think that's where we should be putting our focus, calling our congressmen, calling our telling them, hey, we don't approve of that. We don't want that. I'm shameless plug. I'm running for school board here in the great city of Lancaster, Texas, and to push the election back to November. But I'm running for school board because listen, I'm tired of gangster politicians. I'm tired of people that we put in place that don't adhere to the people, and we don't have a voice right now. So I really think that at the end of the day, that's what's going on when it comes to allowing us to think that it's okay to go outside, right? Again, there are going to be some people, we all know that. We have them in our family, we have them in our churches, we have them in school. You're going to have some people that just going to do what they want to do. And so, there's nothing we can do about that.
True. And Pastor Didi had started saying a little bit about numbers, and I had wrote down some of the numbers, and I just want to kind of share some of them with you, and you all can elaborate on that. I did not do every state. So just to say, New Jersey, I think as of April the 27th was at 111,000 confirmed, and there were 6,044 deaths. Texas had, well, I don't know why they didn't have recovered on New Jersey, but Texas had 25,297 confirmed cases of COVID-19. Recovered was 11,170, and deaths was 663.
And that was yesterday. And today we had 344 more deaths. Jesus.
Then you go Louisiana. Louisiana had 27,000 confirmed cases. And then they had 17,000 recovered, 1,697 deaths. Now I'm going to switch to California. California as a state had 43,000, which still is less than New Jersey, 43,464 confirmed cases and 1,755 deaths. LA itself was 19,528, deaths was 913. Where I live, it's 497 confirmed cases, 271 recovered, and 17 deaths. And then Orange County, 2074 confirmed, 39 deaths. Then we go China, had 84,347 confirmed. Then they had 77,555 recovered. And then they have 4,643 deaths. So I know I said a lot of numbers and you may or may not remember, but what I'm seeing on this paper is that some areas have a really small number of deaths and recoveries, a great number of recoveries, i.e. the South. I feel like the South is not as bad as I thought it was going to be based on the fact of how people are acting as opposed to Jersey.
But that's the thing with with New Jersey and New York. One of the ways New York, there was a place, New Rochelle, became a hot spot and it became very huge in the news. But it was from a person who went to a Jewish person who went to a gathering and had it, spread it to his family and to members of his church. And then people have to understand it is spread. They do know scientists. We have a student at our church who is that's her study, that's her field, this is what she does. And it's respiratory, and it's respiratory with aerosol by the droplets, so it spreads like this. It just hasn't hit down there the way that it could hit, because now all these people are going to go out and probably spread this virus because they have been in the house. So think about this. If you guys already had a low number and you went on your lockdown, your number was already low. We went on our lockdown, the number was already high. So you read China was at 84,000 of all of China. New Jersey is out over 100,000. And New York has more than us. So it's so heavy up here, but the thing is people travel. So also too, to restrict travel. And they were in North Carolina, you couldn't even come into certain states. You couldn't even travel into certain states. So once the lockdown occurred, is to lock it down so it doesn't get the way it is in New Jersey and in New York. But now that they're opening up these parks and opening up these different areas, and now they're having the first confirmed dog that has it. They found cats that
What? I thought the animals couldn't get it.
No, the animals have it. There are 8, I think, tigers in the Bronx Zoo that have it. Again, there's a confirmed family dog because the entire family plus the dog has it. And there are cats, and they're showing that cats can get it more than dogs. So that's what's in New Jersey and New York.
I didn't know that.
Exactly. But most of you guys wouldn't, because you're going to get the local news. So we have our first confirmed dog, and we have the 7 or 8 cats in the Bronx Zoo. And that was last week. And then you have the fact that feline, regular household feline cats can get it. So people don't understand the severity of what this really is about down south, maybe, or in other places. We don't have it like this. And we're trying to stop it from getting to that point. Because imagine if every state has this, so.
You made a great point, because I think that when we started hearing it from you all here in California, they locked us down like quick. I think we locked down probably, I don't know when y'all went in lockdown, but we went in lockdown, I think the first week in March.
Yeah, we were in March.
So we were in March too. So we've been in lockdown since the beginning of March. And when I say lockdown, I mean the grocery stores, everything locked down. And that's before Dallas even really started locking down. I was calling my family like, hey, y'all need to start preparing for this and this. And they were like, man, that's not, coming down here, or that's not this and that's not that. So a lot of people that I saw in Dallas wasn't really taking it seriously, like you said, because they don't get that on the news and they don't hear about it. So therefore, they didn't really take it too seriously with the gloves and the masks and things of that nature. So with that being said, so what do y'all feel like, or let me ask you, Pastor Dee, do you feel like that there's a lot being done right now in Jersey to basically try to get people to stay home? Or do you feel like people are just like, we still gonna do what we want to do, even though we have the highest percentage or one of the highest percentages of cases?
Well, initially, a lot of people in New Jersey and New York didn't take it seriously. Like, again, Tasha, you know how our church is, very pathetic. So when we heard the first quarantine, the first week back, one of the very strong people in our church was like, I've been here in quarantine for 2 years. And so we moved like, get ready before we did the lockdown. We were like, get ready, basically get everything you need to get, get in the house, do what you have to do. So even when churches were allowed to meet, and when churches 50 and under, first it was 250 and under. No, first it was 500 and under. Then it was
Yeah.
50 and under. Then it was 50 and under could meet. So even at that point, when it was like, if you have a church 50 members or less, you can still meet. There were several churches that still met. And I prayed and God told me no. And on literally that night, that Saturday night, I got up in the morning, probably like 2 something in the morning, and God was like, no, you're not meeting. So we did not meet. But once people started to see, it was like on Facebook and Instagram, every other post,
Yeah.
you were scared to read it. You would see a picture, you're like, oh my gosh,
Somebody passed away.
so that's when they even begin to start taking it more seriously. And you have a lot of people, the governor here in New Jersey, he started something, NJ.gov. He had several celebrities from New Jersey raise money because they cannot get federal funding. And this is battle Cuomo and Murphy. Cuomo is the governor of New York, and Murphy, the governor of New Jersey, are battling with Trump to get federal funding. And he's saying basically, y'all have to use your own money. But Jersey has had a huge surplus of money, more than they've had in the last 10-year decade for the administration, but that's gone. So we need respirators, we need masks, I donate masks. If every essential worker in my church, I have a sewing machine. I went downstairs, I bought filters from vacuum cleaner filters, which are really, really, really good. And I made masks and I donated them. And then some stuff from my clothing line has those as well, the covering. But if you were an essential worker, there are people sewing, there are people donating and they're giving money and they're raising money because the hospitals don't have enough. We have funeral homes that have bodies piled up outside because they don't have any more space inside the funeral home. And that's not just one funeral home. It's been mayhem in New Jersey and in New York. And the latest, there's a woman from New York, ER doctor. She had the virus. She recovered, went back to work, couldn't take it. She just killed herself last night.
I saw that.
It's different, but I believe that people in New Jersey became more serious once they really understood what was happening. But you still have people who are like protesting in Trenton. Like, we have the right to work. We have the right to make our own money. We don't want government assistance. Open up our businesses. Because again, like Pastor Dixon said, you're going to have some people who are just openly defiant. You're going to have rebellious people. Like, this is where we live. And not just the world, the church as well. You're going to have people, because that pastor was not the only pastor having church. If you looked online, there were still a lot of pastors after we were told to shut it down who still have church. And in the last week of March, there were over 30 pastors and bishops that died in the New York area. And one of the things that this apostle said to his wife on his deathbed was, I should have listened to you and stayed home. You're still having churches open. Brian Carr still had his church open. There's a lot of people who are still meeting.
So Pastor Dixon, so in reference to your thought process, I know y'all are on two different sides of the spectrum per se. So what do you feel like can be done more in Dallas? Like, not that you can do it just yourself, but what do you feel like can be done more in Dallas to bring more awareness to it and to possibly encourage people in our community, not just our community, because we want everybody safe, but just encourage people in general to take this seriously, stay at home and practice safety? Because I see people all the time, no covering, no mask, no gloves. So what do you think about that?
Listen, you have to be living under a rock to not know what's going on. I don't think there's anything we can do to create more awareness than what's being done. It's on every news station. It's on every radio station. It's on every social media post. COVID-19, coronavirus. Again, people are just not taking it seriously. I liken it to one of my favorite stories that I've told millions of times. I'll never forget, my daughter Raven, you've been on a long time. She loves you. By the way, she told me to tell you she loves you. She's 23. She'll be 24 this year. But when Raven was 3 years old, she asked me to get her a hamster. And I went out and I bought her a hamster. And when I came back home from work the next day after buying her a hamster, she said the hamster needs some food. So I had to go out and get the hamster some food. The next day I come back home, she said the hamster needs a toy. Said the hamster is lonely, he has nobody to play with. Went out and got the hamster a toy. Came back the next day, she said the hamster getting fat, he needs a treadmill. I said, hold up, the hamster had more stuff than me. But you know me, that was my only kid. I went out and bought the treadmill. On one day while she was at school, I saw that the hamster's dwelling in the cage was dirty. And so what I did was I said, hey, I need to clean the dwelling. So I went to the hamster and I asked the hamster, his name was Ben. I said, Ben, won't you come into my hand, right? So I can clean your dwelling in your house. And the hamster kept hiding behind the very thing God hamster hid behind the treadmill, hid behind the toy. And I swore that he would just look up at me and smile to let me know he was outsmarting me. But what I did was I did what God does with us. I took out the toy, I took out the food, and I took out the treadmill until it was just me and the hamster. And when it was just me and the hamster, Ben came right into my hand. Sometimes God has to shut down some gyms, some restaurants, take away some toys from us, not because he's trying to kill us, but be trying to get our attention. And so right now we're at a point where God wants us and wants to get our attention because he wants us to know that he is priority and he is first. And I truly believe, without a shadow of doubt, that after this is over, I really believe that there will be a great awakening, if you will, spiritual awakening, just within not even America, but also the world.
You actually that was one of my questions I was going to ask y'all about. Do you felt like this pandemic was like a reckoning of sorts or like an awakening of God for the people? You know what I mean? I definitely feel that way because I know me personally, everybody's different. I'm isolated by myself. Like all my family, they're in Texas. So like I'm literally, when I say by myself, I'm by myself. And I had just moved when we were on lockdown. So it's like all of my furniture is back home. So it's like no friends no friends, no physical contact, nobody here. It's literally just me. I thank God I have a job still, but to be away from everybody. And I was like, at one point kind of feeling like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to do this because I ain't never wanted to go to jail. If this is what jail feels like this is crazy. But I have a few friends who are really positive that I watch on Instagram that are really like my friends that either live here and one lives in New York. And they were just talking about changing your circumstances of how you think or the way you think. Instead of looking at it as being on lockdown or isolation, look at it as a moment of self-reflection of who you are. Look at it as God giving you time to get back to your purpose. Look at it as a moment for you to kind of, like you said, delete everything of a quote unquote my necessity from my life so that I can get back to my true original self of my, how can I say this, God's will for my life. Because like right now, I'm gonna be transparent. Up here, you're pursuing entertainment opportunities. You're pursuing this red carpet event. You're pursuing trying to act in this particular film or whatever situation may be. And you forget the fact that like, dang, I missed church on Sunday. Going to this red carpet event or going to this networking event. And you begin to prioritize things that are not of importance to your will of God, if that makes sense. That's what I discovered about myself. And so when all those things have been snatched from you, like you said, you right back right back at where God is. God said, okay, so now that you got all this removed, are you gonna listen? Are you gonna listen?
So listen, I think something that you brought up, I think was a great point, and I think a lot of us miss it even in life. I told you next month we'll be talking about Can You Hear Me Now? But this month we're talking about I Can't Stand This House, right? Coming from the premise of just being having cabin fever and being in lockdown, how you just want to get out. But one of my sermons in that series is called Living Room. How are you living, right? The question is, do you know your purpose and are you doing your purpose, right? Because after all this is over with, you still going to be doing your purpose. If you're still here and you're still living, you still have to find out, why did God create me, right? Why am I here? And I believe that a lot of us, and I say us because we all could be doing more. A lot of us are not doing enough, right, to get closer to what God has called us to do, right? Finding our purpose, and then if we found our purpose, doing it. Because let me tell you something, there's a difference between knowing your purpose and walking in your purpose. That's two totally different things. And so some people don't know their purpose, but some people do, and they're still not walking in it, right? And so we want to come to church and scream and holler and say, God, send me. But God says, send you. You don't even know where you're going, right? And so we really need to be about our Father's business. And we shouldn't have to wait till we're 40 and 50. Jesus said at 12, I'm about my Father's business. You 45, what's your problem? You know what I'm saying? So you know, we have to get to a point where we understand that the primary focus is making sure we're doing what God has called us to do. So finding our purpose and then doing what God has called us to do.
Amen. And you just touched on the next thing. So when you're at home, and this is for both of you all, and you may want to lead with it, Pastor Dixon, when you're at home, because there's a lot of people that home is not a safe haven for them. So we have this slogan of stay safe at home, go home, be safe. But there's some people, whether it be kids that are being abused, whether it's domestic violence issues that are happening at home, their home is not safe even at home. So I heard like the numbers of the divorce rates have went up since this pandemic, or the people who are filing for divorce, separations, domestic violence issues, child abuse issues. And I know Pastor Dixon, you have an organization that's dealing with domestic violence. Do you want to tell the people like why you started your organization for domestic violence, and then kind of elaborate on, what y'all are doing or how y'all can help people right now that may be going through some issues?
Yes, my testimony is my dad killed my mother at 8 years old, right? I was 8 years old. My biological father killed my biological mother. Her name was Lucy Dixon. So because of that, I grew up with a lot of hate, bitterness in my heart. God saved me. The first thing he told me was, you can't go do ministry until you forgive your father. So I had to go back, forgive my father. And that brought me through a whole trail of things. And then when I answered my call, I realized that what I went through was my testimony was also to help minister to other people. And so we started I Love Lucy Ministries for that reason, to help not only domestic violence survivors, but domestic violence survivors' kids, because that's what I was, right? So we offer counseling for domestic violence kids. We also have, in October, we have a weekend where we try to raise money for domestic violence survivors. We have a walk that we started this past year, I Love Lucy Walk, 5K run walk, where we try to raise money for domestic violence survivors. Then on that Sunday, we cater a message to domestic violence survivors, and then we bring domestic violence shelters in to make sure we minister to them. As you have stated, the numbers have gone up. Domestic violence numbers have gone up since we've been in quarantine. Child abuse numbers have gone up since we've been in quarantine. And let me hit you with this. Shelters are not taking people because the government demanded that they stop because of COVID-19. So now, where do you go when your home is not safe? What do you do when the very place you go to lay your head gives you a headache?
Right.
So it's like I don't know what to do, right? And so it's really become not only a COVID-19 pandemic, but now you got a domestic violence epidemic. Right, because you have people who are scared to go home and now have to go home to demons, warlocks, right, cowards, right, people who are have serious issues and doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Listen, I am a person that I'm going to fight domestic violence till I have no breath in me. I just believe that that's just straight from the devil. And so that's a very demonic spirit, and I just believe that's something that we as Christians ought to pay more attention to. I know we have a lot of things that we ought to be paying attention to, but I don't think it gets enough light as it should when it comes to domestic violence.
Okay, thank you for sharing about that. And Pastor, and please, I don't know if you can. We'll do it at a later time where you can go back and pin maybe if you have an email address to that organization, your foundation that you have, so people can actually look that up if they need assistance, if they want to volunteer in the future. If you could please pin that in the comments as well.
And if you say it now, I see the comments going up, and somebody can type it in the stream.
Oh yeah, you sure can type it right now.
There's a stream on Facebook, and there's a stream in our group. So even if you say it, I'm pretty sure someone can type it in, so they'll hear it now.
I see people typing out Love Lucy. Hey Raven.
Mm-hmm.
And Pastor Didi, I don't know if you want to touch on it a little bit. I know that you've had some situations in the past that you've dealt with in reference to
Domestic violence.
domestic violence, and I want if you want to share a little bit of that, as well as kind of give some encouraging words to women who may be in those situations now watching, to give them some insight.
Well, you can always get out. That is something. I am a survivor of domestic violence, and I think one of the things I think too with the African American community, just to hear survivor of domestic violence, I think we just live so much to survive. You don't even realize you're a survivor. You're just,
Yeah.
oh, I went through
Right.
that. Technically, you're a survivor. So I don't think it's talked about enough in the church. I don't think it's dealt with enough in the church because I do believe so much happens in the church and it's brushed under the rug, especially if it's happening to we're people who go to church, but these are things that are happening. But however, if you allow the person's title to supersede the character and
Mm-hmm.
you don't do anything about that, that's where people want to leave the church and like, oh, wait a minute, how are you a deacon or a pastor and you're beating your wife or you're not supposed to talk about it and things like that. And so I was not hushed up, but when I was in church and we were discussing it outside, I was like told to be quiet because too many people were coming outside and they may know what I'm talking about. But then to find out that the person who I was married to had a history of this violent behavior, and I didn't know, my mother didn't know. We were not new to the church, but if the church was founded and you guys are there for 30 years and we're there for 10 years, we're considered new. So we didn't know the history of this individual, but they all did. So my mother's thing was, why didn't somebody warn
Say
me or
something.
my child? Because
Mm-hmm.
he's so and so's child. So and so's dad is a deacon, and so and so's mom is a deaconess, and all these things. So and it just gets brushed under the rug. And so you're basically you and your child go, and those things happen, but you can survive. You can make it. You can get over it. You can get past it, and God will use it as a testimony. And
Right.
you have to have the strength to know that you will make it, even if you have to make it on your own. I know you said that you're there, by yourself, Kasha, and you're isolated by yourself. And I have my mom, but she's, nonverbal. She can't walk. So, it's the same type of situation. However, you have God. You have the peace of God. And even if
Yeah.
you were with your family, I don't know if you would have been in the same house, but there are families who live right down the street and they're still social distancing because
Yeah.
you have to keep them safe. Like my son is up here, but my son, he came to get a mask and he said, I'll pick the one I want when I come inside. I said, you can't come inside because he's still working. I said, your
Oh yeah.
mother is in here, your grandmother's in here, and there's no way she can
Yeah.
touch anything.
Take that chance.
It's not
Yeah.
verbal, and you're not going to tell me she can't be in the hospital without me. So it's a whole nother situation. So again, serious social distancing because that's what's going to flatten this curve. So we do have to take it seriously. But as a survivor, you can survive and thrive. You can
Mm-hmm.
survive and thrive as a single parent. You can survive and thrive because you want your life and you want your children. One of my main issues is I didn't want my child to grow up in a household seeing that and thinking that it was okay for that to happen and for that to occur. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I just
Mm-hmm.
think the church needs to speak about it more. People need to speak about it more and stop hiding everything because this is a person who goes to your church or it's a person who has a title because that takes you right back to the Bible. I'm always going to go back to the Bible. And that's just like
Yeah.
with God. God stopped speaking because he let his sons do whatever they wanted to do and didn't sit them down, didn't stop them. And so God stopped speaking, which is why he had to raise up, Samuel. So it gets to a point where, you have to see God as church people, as the Bible, as Christians. We really have to know what the word of God is saying about these situations. Because what God said to us is like, this is like Jeremiah, where he talked to them and said, this is what's going to happen. You guys are going to go into some captivity, but while you are there. A lot of us like to preach, Jeremiah 29:11, but I know the plans I have for you. That's a great scripture, but you need to understand the context of it. They were going into captivity. So he was telling them, when you come out, I know the plans that I have for you after this is over. So I
Yeah.
want you to marry. I want you to build houses. I want you to plant vineyards. Do everything that you need to do because of your disobedience. You guys are going to be in captivity for a minute. And I'm going to use the king of Babylon to be my rod. However, when you come out, I know the plans I have. So while we're in isolation, this is when we should be working on our purpose. This is when we should be doing the things that God wants to do.
True.
The time that we said we didn't have, to write the books and to create the business plan and to start the nonprofit. All the time we have more than enough time at that place, time for prayer, time for fasting. So when we come out of this, we are where we need to be with God and on point with those things, and we can move forward in those areas and propel actually when we come up out of here, because some people are writing off 2020 already. You know, you see the meme saying,
Oh, yes, I do.
2020 is not over. It is not over. And so we have to look toward God and say, okay, God, what is going on after this? And what can we do during this? Because I believe everybody can do something. I do
Right.
believe everybody can do something during this time.
So you finna say something, Pastor Dixon?
Yeah, I was just about to say. I just think those are all great points. Thank you, Pastor Denise, for just telling us your testimony. I just also think it's great. Caution, I told you this the other day, that I think that it's great that you got us on talking about ministry in the midst of mayhem. But you didn't just put a male voice on, right? You have a female on as well. I think it's just imperative that we hear from a female perspective just as well as a male perspective, to give us those two great perspectives. I'm just so happy to be on tonight.
Well, look, I was getting ready to do a final question for you all, which the question was going to be, I know it's getting in the midnight hour for you, Pastor Denise, Dorothy, sorry. So if you can sum it up for me, like, what does ministry in the midst of mayhem mean to you? And then just end it with the positive words of encouragement to the viewers. Either one of y'all can go first.
I'll go. I feel that it's another opportunity to, again, come together and to know who God is. Like, again, I said it earlier, we have different platforms and we do different things to entertain people, or we do all these things because we don't think the word of God or who Christ is enough. You know, we don't think that he's enough. But when people really begin to understand who he is and learn about who he is, they understand that the gospel is enough. And so I think during this pandemic, again, we have the different things with this StreamYard and Zoom and all these other opportunities to connect.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the connection needs to stay in place because people need to talk. They need outlets.
Yeah.
They need to have a voice. They need to be able to still come and still meet and still get counseling. So I do believe that the churches still have to avail themselves to make that an opportunity to happen. You can still have that community. You can still have those things. And I feel like once the stage is put to the side and the lights and the glitz and the glamour is gone, what do you have? You know, what's behind the scenes. So even with Pastor Dixon saying he has all his organizations, that's a great thing because they still have that and that's still going. So I think we have to continue to keep going and keep the other things that we were already doing, just finding out a different way to do it or a different avenue. It can still be done, but to have the face-to-face interactions, to have the voice and seeing the person on the other end, to have those sessions, I think those things have to continue to occur because people are just looking everywhere and they're just jumping and running. But if you still allow those things to happen within your church or still make yourself available, go on social media, do a live, have and do some fun things. Do some fun things as well. I know there's a church, a good friend of mine with her young people. She's a youth minister. They do Zoom karaoke and they have they do Zoom karaoke. They're doing Zoom charades. They're doing like their game night. So you can still have your game night with your youth, but they're doing it via Zoom. We still have we do something called Chill, Chat, and Chew. And we have something called Let's Talk as well with our young kids. And we have children's church. And they're like, when are we having children's church? So they just have it at a separate time with their Chat and Chew and still get with their teachers and they're still getting on and the kids are getting on and their parents are making sure they're on. So they still have that community. On Sunday, we're still here. We're talking to each other. After church is over, we stay on the line for a while so people can just say, hey, what's going on? What are you cooking? This is what I have. So you still have to keep that discipleship. That's has to keep going. And I just encourage people, because we're talking about people of God. So I encourage people to really get back to that place. But I also basically beg you, when this is over, don't stop. Don't go back. Like you said, you realize some things about your life during this, but are we going to continue where we are now when this is over? Or are we going to go right back to doing some of the things that we didn't prioritize God first. Are we going to allow him to be first? Are we going to still pray the way we're praying? Are we going to still fast the way we're fasting? Are we going to still study and get in these groups? Are we going to still be there? Or are we going to go right back to the way we were before, where God was not first? God wants to be first. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. We always talk about seeking him first, but we don't add the righteous part. And God still calls us to be holy. He calls us to be righteous. But our generation, or this new generation, and I won't say all, a lot of them don't like to have the stipulations of holiness and righteousness. But that's what God requires. And that's never going to change. His word does not change. Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. That is not going to change. So regardless of what's happening in our worlds, the Bible is still the Bible. His mandates are still his mandates. Who he is, that's still who he is. So that's not going to change. And so we have to really begin to teach pastors and bishops and apostles the word of God and bring the people back to God, not to personalities, but back to God. Back to God. Because right now, as Pastor Dixon said, everybody's kind of on the same level playing field, but we need to be bringing them back to God. And that's where it needs to stay when this is over.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor D.
And, you know, your name of your show is Ministry in the Midst of Mayhem. Ministry is suffering. A lot of people don't realize. They asked Muhammad Ali when he won his first championship, he said, "You're the champ because you won." He said, "No, I'm the champ because when I got knocked down, I got back up." Many people right now are getting knocked down, but you're only the champ because you get back up. This didn't catch God by surprise. It only caught us by surprise. God knows everything. He's in full control. He has the whole world in his hands. And so what we have to do is make sure that we keep our eyes focused on Jesus. We have to make sure that we're doing the things, again, that God has called us to do, even during this coronavirus season. Even during this season, I pastor the greatest church this side of the heaven with some of the greatest people called the Faith Church here in Lancaster, Texas. We have Monday through Thursday devotionals at 12 noon. Shameless plug. You can catch us on Facebook at Faith Church. Go on YouTube and catch us at Faith Channel Lancaster, or on Instagram at the Faith Pastor. So you can catch us any one of those venues. We do devotionals at 12 noon, Monday through Thursday. This week is all youth. All of our youth. I put on Facebook, no church is doing this, right? Our youth are doing devotionals at 12 noon all this week, and they're doing a phenomenal job, right? And if they was on Facebook twerking, y'all be sending hearts across the screen. Y'all need to send some hearts. Some kids lifting up Jesus right now. Then on Sundays, of course, we have service that you can view at 8 and 11. Again, this Sunday, you don't want to miss it. It's going down like 4 flats on a Cadillac. I'm starting a new series, I Can't Stand This House. And my first sermon is stay in the house. Because you got to know there's a blessing when you stay in the house. You got to know there's provision when you stay in the house. You got to know there's peace when you stay in the house. You got to know there's protection when you stay in the house. And so the next week after that, I'm going to be talking about living room. How are you living? The third week, I'm going to be talking about something that's going to blow your mind. Kitchen. What are you cooking and eating? Because many of us are cooking up some stuff God never intended and eating some stuff God never told us to eat. But then the last week, I'm telling you, this is going to blow your mind. I'm going to talk about bedroom. I just want to get some. You want to tune in for that. But I just want you all to know, listen, I promise you that God is in the blessing business. And you're either going to get healed on this side or healed on the other side. Absent from the body is present with the Lord. So you don't have to walk around in fear. You don't have to fear COVID-19. You don't have to fear 46 minus 1. You don't have to fear your governors. All you have to do is make sure your life is lining up to the will and purpose of God. And I promise you, he'll protect you. He'll keep you. He'll give you peace that passeth all understanding. And even though we're going through mayhem, we're going through crisis, if you keep your vision and you keep your focus on Christ and not the crisis, everything will be okay.
Well, amen. Ooh, okay. Well, we're right at time. I want to just thank you all again for joining me, Pastor Dee. Thank you. I know you just got through having a very busy day, so thank you for taking the time out to just chat with us on today and give us a wonderful testimony and words of encouragement. Great scripture. Same thing for you, Pastor D. Dixon. Thank you for giving us your words of encouragement, your testimony. Pastor Didi, also at some point, if you don't mind, maybe putting your church info in the comments as well, so people can possibly check out some of your live streams also. And then we just have a quick little game with a few little questions I'm going to ask y'all before we close out.
Okay, so I'll just ask somebody to put it here.
Okay.
The church's information, the YouTube, and all the other stuff that we have. That's fine.
Yeah, I'll have somebody putting our stuff up as well. Hopefully by the end of this year in the fall, we have a book coming out called "You're Nobody Until Somebody Kills You," strictly dealing with domestic violence. And so we trying to make it do what it do, Kosh. You know, we grinding over here. We eating over here.
We're gonna have to do this again. We're gonna have to pick up and do a part 2, because I feel like maybe if we can do it earlier in the day, I can get more out of this. Maybe do a conference or something. I don't know. Y'all can have some time slots where y'all can bring a word. Pastor Didi can get a word in her theme, and you can give a word in your theme, and we can close it out. I just feel like y'all pray about it. You never
we're gonna let Pastor Denise preach. I'm just gonna give an offering. How about that?
Okay, we're gonna play this game called Questions. Okay. Questions. Okay, just questions. Okay, if you had $1 for every time someone asked you for prayer or for you to sacrifice your time, how much money would you think you have right now?
Well, you already know we be multi-billionaires right now. You know,
You'd be a multi-billionaire.
Yeah, because it's not just your people. Like, this is the thing. Regardless of if you're a pastor or you're a leader, it's not going to just be your people. You're going to have other people. And now that we have this avenue of social media, you know, it just introduces you to more people. So again, you know, I have a lot of, you know, requests. I'm certain that Pastor Dixon does as well. I have a lot of emails. When I do Triple P on Thursdays, I'll have people sending me their dreams. Can you help me interpret my dreams? So you're going to have a lot of other people as well, you know, who pull on you, and you're going to have a lot of people who request things of you, but you just have to understand balance, you know, your own personal balance, do what God has you to do. And you have to learn how to say no. You know, I think some pastors don't know how to say no or to have a boundary. Boundaries. And again,
so you'll be a billionaire.
Oh, you already know.
What about you, Pastor?
Yeah, I'll be rich, multi-millionaire, billionaire, all that. Because you got to realize, just like Pastor Denise said, let me tell you something. The most requests I get is not from my people. I get more requests from outside than I do inside. You got to realize your family, you become the resident pastor for your family. Even though I have a great family, I have ministers in my family as well. And so, but you become resident pastor for people around you, right? And so people reach out for prayer and want you to sacrifice and do that. But again, hey, that's the call, right? And so pastoring is not a career, it's a call.
I appreciate that. And y'all just put it in the atmosphere. So hopefully it went from our mouths to God's ears. He's going to bless you all abundantly. You know, maybe he may make y'all multi-billionaires. Y'all said it. So maybe he's going to go y'all in health and in wealth. We got one more question. Y'all listen closely, okay? Okay. If you had to assemble a crew or a team from those mentioned in the Bible to help you in a street fight, feed your family, and to style you for a church conference, who would those 3 people be? So it would be, if you had it from the Bible. So say, for instance, if I say, I don't know, if I say I want Moses to teach me how to swim, I know that's weird, but I'm just giving you an example. So say it again. If you had a chance to assemble a crew, your homies, or a team from those people mentioned in the Bible to help you in a street fight, feed your family, and style you for a church conference, give me those 3 names. Who would they be? Like, which one?
I would say a street fight. I want David. If he can kill a giant, he sure can do some damage. You know what I'm saying? To feed, you said to feed family?
To feed your family.
To feed my family. I don't know. I guess I would want Elijah. I don't know. To feed my family. I don't know, Joseph maybe to feed my family. Right. To style me though, I want the richest man in the history. You all know who that is, right? Who the richest person in the Bible?
Solomon.
Solomon got that money. I'm gonna have Gucci on, Louis Vuitton, everything. I'm gonna have 20-inch rims on my chariot. I'm gonna flat screens on the horses. I'm back. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that, Pastor Didi. Do you want me to repeat the three again?
Okay, so you said a street fight.
Yes.
Okay, I would say now. First of all, we shouldn't be fighting because we're Christian. Anyway,
This is before Christ.
This is before Christ. Okay, so if I had a street fight, I would have Elijah because he can call down fire and get rid of everybody real quick. I ain't gotta mess up my nails. If I had to have somebody feed, of course it'd be Christ because he turned 2 fish into 5 loaves, so he got the whole family. And then if I had somebody to style me, it would be the Book of Esther. It would be, and he doesn't have a name, the harem, because he knew what to dress them, and he had all the Jews in the right things to put. So he was telling them, hey, wear this, whatever, because he knew what the king liked. So he would be my stylist because he knows what my king would like.
Good answers. And last but not least, just a bonus question.
A bonus question.
Have you ever been in church? I know both of y'all are ministers. Have you ever been in church hungry on Communion Sunday and decided to take more than one little cracker and more than one little cup?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely never?
Absolutely never. Never. I don't play with God. No, I haven't.
Listen,
because that's Bible. The Bible tells you not come when you are hungry to take communion because you could be eating and drinking death unto yourself, which is why many in the church are sick and have fallen asleep. That's in 1 Corinthians.
Listen, in my pre-save days, in my Saul days before I became Paul, let me put that disclaimer out. My pre-save days, I would take 2 or 3 communions, definitely. Let me tell you something. I have no shame in my game. When I was 10, I used to tear them communions up. I used to be in the back with the deacons, putting them in my pocket. Amen.
You was 10. You get a break. You was 10.
You were a child, so you don't get the problem. Man, you put away childish things. So as a child,
but I will confess and say, now I wouldn't necessarily say I take multiple communions, but I did kind of look real hard for the biggest weight when we used to have those things. I did used to look for the biggest one and be like, oh, that one big right there, and I'd get the biggest one. Now I did do that. Now I did. I'm just saying I did. Well, thank y'all so very much for playing my little game of questions. Thank y'all for joining me. Both of y'all are near and dear to my heart, near and dear to my spiritual walk. I'm sure both of y'all have to know it because I definitely go to Pastor Dixon for spiritual counsel as well as go to Pastor Didi for dreams and fashion and recipes and everything else. She's just definitely like the big sister, spiritual guidance counselor, everything all wrapped up in one. And I thank God tremendously for both of you all. And I look forward to possibly doing this all with you again in the future. Be blessed, be safe, and stay at home.
Yes, stay at home.
Let me say this, Josh. Let me say this before we go. Thank you so much for allowing us to get on. Listen, I'm so proud of you. You know, I love you so much. I always pray for you. God got big things in store for you. You just got to keep doing you. Keep being you. You are a light in a dark world. We love you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. To God be the glory on all of that because it's definitely not me. I appreciate it. Well, y'all be blessed and thank y'all for being in the mix.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.